She secretly put me on hormones and turned me into a girl. I didn't know the first sign was my skin. That's the scary part. Not the mood swings. Not the way my chest started aching some mornings. Not even the way my reflection began to look softer. It was my skin. One random Tuesday, while washing my face before work, I noticed how smooth it felt. Not just I used good moisturizer, smooth. Different. Almost delicate. My razor glided without resistance. No roughness. No thick stubble fighting back. I stared at myself in the mirror longer than I should have. And that was the first time I felt it. Not fear. Not yet. Curiosity. My name is Ethan Carter. 26. Junior graphic designer at a mid-tier marketing firm. The kind of guy who blends into the background at office meetings. The kind of guy people describe as nice. Safe. Predictable. Invisible. I lived in a small 2-bedroom apartment downtown. Warm lighting, neutral furniture, clean but not impressive. It was the kind of place that felt comfortable, but never fully alive. Except when Mia was there. Mia changed the temperature of every room she walked into. She had that quiet confidence. Not loud, not dramatic, just controlled. Intentional. Her dark hair always perfectly styled. Her eyeliner sharp enough to cut glass. She worked in pharmaceutical research, something she rarely talked about in detail. Boring lab stuff, she'd say with a dismissive smile. But it paid well. Better than my job ever could. We'd been together for almost 2 years. She liked control, not in an aggressive way, but in subtle ways. She picked the restaurants. She reorganized my closet. She replaced my body wash with something better for your skin. She'd even started buying my shampoo. You trust me, right? She'd say playfully. And I did. That's the thing. I trusted her completely. Now here's what you need to understand about me. I wasn't new to femininity. I wasn't some hyper-masculine alpha pretending to be something else. Ever since college, I'd had moments. Late nights alone in my dorm room. Borrowed eyeliner from a friend during a costume party. The way my heart raced when I tried on a wig once as a joke and didn't immediately want to take it off. It wasn't about humiliation. It wasn't about dares. It was about something quieter. Relief. When I looked at myself with softer features, even if it was just makeup and lighting, something inside me relaxed. But I buried it. Because curiosity is fine. Fantasy is fine. But identity? That's different. And I wasn't ready for that conversation. Not with myself. Definitely not with Mia. I thought she didn't know. But looking back now, she always watched me in mirrors. That sounds paranoid, right? But she did. If I adjusted my hair slightly differently, she noticed. If I shaved a little closer, she'd comment. If I lingered too long in the skincare aisle at the store, her lips would twitch like she knew something I didn't. You'd look good with softer brows, she once said casually while we were brushing our teeth. I laughed it off. But she didn't. She just smiled at my reflection. The first real change came a few weeks after she insisted on helping my stress. I'd been overwhelmed at work, deadline stacking, my boss nitpicking everything. One night, I came home exhausted. Mia was already there, sitting cross-legged on the couch. I brought you something, she said, holding up a small amber bottle. Vitamins? I asked. Supplements. Natural. They'll balance your mood. Balance. I didn't question it. Why would I? She worked in pharmaceuticals. She knew more about health than I ever would. Every night after that, she'd hand me 2 small capsules and a glass of water. Good boys take care of themselves, she'd tease. That phrase should have bothered me. But it didn't. Because every night after I swallowed those capsules, I felt calm. Warmer. My sleep improved. My dreams changed. And slowly things shifted. My emotions sharpened. Music hit harder. Arguments made me tear up instead of shut down. My body felt lighter somehow. At first, I thought it was placebo. Then, my shirt started fitting differently. Subtle. Just slightly tighter across my chest. My waist looked narrower in the mirror. I blamed the gym. Diet changes. Stress. Anything but the obvious. The day it truly scared me was when my coworker Jenna tilted her head and said, "Ethan, are you doing something different?" Your skin looks amazing. Amazing. Not handsome. Not sharp. Amazing. I laughed it off. But inside, something fluttered. And here's the part that makes this whole thing twisted. I didn't hate it. That's what confuses me the most when I look back. I should have panicked. I should have demanded answers. I should have read the labels on those capsules. Instead, I started leaning into it. I moisturized more. I shaped my eyebrows slightly. I caught myself studying Mia's makeup techniques while she got ready. And one night, when she left for a late shift at the lab, I opened her closet. Just to look. Silk blouses. Soft dresses. High heels arranged like artwork. I told myself I wouldn't touch anything. But my fingers had other plans. The fabric felt electric against my skin. And when I held one of her dresses against my body in the mirror, my heart didn't race with fear. It raced with recognition. That was the night I realized something was happening to me. Something bigger than curiosity. Something biological. Something irreversible. The next morning, while making coffee, Mia watched me carefully. "You're glowing," she said softly. "Am I?" I asked. She stepped closer, brushed her thumb across my cheek. Her eyes darkened. "It's working beautifully." "Working?" I froze. "Working," I repeated. She just smiled. And that was the moment, the exact moment, when the warmth inside me turned into ice. Because suddenly the vitamins weren't just vitamins. The mood swings weren't just stress relief. And the softness in my reflection wasn't accidental. I didn't know exactly what she had done. But deep down I knew one thing. Mia hadn't been helping me relax. She had been changing me. And the worst part? A small, terrifying part of me wanted to know how far she was planning to take it. If you think you know where this is going, you don't. Because what Mia did next wasn't just manipulation. It was a transformation I never agreed to. And by the time I realized the truth, it was already too late. The first time my chest hurt, I told myself it was the gym. I pressed my palm against the soreness one morning while getting dressed for work. It wasn't sharp pain. It was tender, sensitive, like a bruise forming beneath the skin. I stood in front of the mirror longer than usual. There was something there. Not obvious. Not dramatic. But different. My shirts weren't just tighter because of fabric shrinkage. They curved slightly. Subtly. My collarbones looked more pronounced. My waist dipped inward in a way it never had before. I should have confronted Mia that morning. Instead, I went to work. Because denial is comfortable. And curiosity? Curiosity is addictive. At the office, everything felt louder. The air conditioning brushed against my skin like fingertips. The fabric of my jeans felt too rough. Even my own voice sounded strange to me, softer around the edges, like the bass had quietly lowered itself overnight. "Are you okay?" Jenna asked again during lunch. I nodded. "Yeah." "Why?" She leaned closer. "You look different." There it was again. Different. Not bad. Not wrong. Just different. And the worst part? I liked that she noticed. That terrified me. Because that meant this wasn't just happening to me. Other people could see it too. That night, Mia was already home when I arrived. Candles lit. Music low. That calm, calculated atmosphere she always created when she wanted control of the mood. "You look tired," she said, studying me. "My chest feels weird," I replied before I could stop myself. Her eyes flickered. "Muscle growth maybe," she said smoothly. "Hormonal fluctuations can cause tenderness." Hormonal. The word echoed. I swallowed. "What kind of supplements did you give me?" She smiled. Too slowly. "Natural enhancers." "You trust me, Ethan." It wasn't a question. And I hated that part of me still did. She walked up behind me while I stood at the kitchen counter. Her hands slid around my waist. And I froze. Her palms rested exactly where my body had started narrowing. She leaned her chin on my shoulder. "You're becoming more balanced," she whispered. Balanced. The word didn't feel innocent anymore. A week later, I found the bottle. Not the one she handed me nightly. A different one. Hidden in her bathroom cabinet behind her skincare. White label.
Clinical design.
The name made my stomach drop. Estradiol. I didn't need a medical degree to understand that word. My hands started shaking. I Googled it on my phone. Estrogen. Hormone replacement therapy. Feminization. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room.
No. No, no, no.
This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a vitamin mix-up. This was deliberate. She had been dosing me. Systematically. Quietly. My mind screamed to confront her immediately. But something stopped me. Because alongside the panic, there was something else. Recognition. Everything I'd secretly fantasized about, softer features, a more feminine silhouette, emotional depth, was happening. Without me having to choose it. Without me having to face it.
It was being done to me.
And that twisted part of my brain whispered, "You didn't have the courage to ask for this." She just removed the choice. That thought scared me more than the hormones did. That night, I didn't say anything. I let her hand me the capsules again. But this time, I didn't swallow them. I hid them under my tongue and spat them into the sink later. I needed clarity. I needed to see what my body was doing without more influence. But the changes didn't stop.
Because they were already inside me.
Already circulating. Already rewriting me. 2 weeks later, my face changed enough that I couldn't pretend anymore. My jaw looked less angular. My cheeks slightly fuller. Even my eyelashes looked longer somehow. I caught myself tracing my reflection with fascination instead of horror. Who are you becoming?
The question haunted me.
That's when the internal war truly began. Part of me felt violated.
Drugged.
Manipulated.
Betrayed.
Another part felt liberated. Like something buried had been given permission to breathe. I'd always feared making the choice to transition. The social consequences. The judgment. The permanent label. But if it wasn't my decision, if it was something done to me, then maybe I didn't have to own it. That logic was toxic. But it was real. The night everything escalated, Mia came home with a small black box. She set it gently on the bed.
For you, she said.
My pulse spiked. What is it? Open it. Inside was a silky blush pink blouse. Delicate.
Soft.
Beautiful. My throat tightened. Mia. She stepped closer. Her voice dropped to a whisper. You've been looking at my closet. I froze. She smiled slightly. I see everything, Ethan. Heat flooded my face. I was just curious. I know, she said calmly. You've always been curious. She lifted the blouse and held it against my chest. It fit.
Perfectly.
And that terrified me. Because she hadn't guessed the size. She'd measured. You're already halfway there, she murmured. Halfway where? My breathing became shallow. You've been giving me estrogen, I said finally. Silence. She didn't deny it. Instead, she reached up and brushed her fingers across my cheek. And look how beautiful you're becoming. Beautiful. Not handsome. Not attractive. Beautiful. My heart pounded so hard I thought she could feel it. You didn't ask me, I whispered. She tilted her head. If I had asked, would you have said yes? I couldn't answer. Because that was the problem. I didn't know. And she knew I didn't know. That's why she never asked. Then she did something that shattered whatever illusion of control I had left. She knelt in front of me. Not submissively. Intentionally. She unbuttoned my shirt slowly. My chest was undeniably different now. Small swelling beneath the skin. Sensitive to even the brush of air. She looked up at me with satisfaction. See, she whispered. Your body wants this. My knees nearly buckled. This wasn't just physical transformation anymore. This was psychological warfare. Was it my body wanting it? Or was it chemical inevitability? And the scariest question of all, if I stop now, will I regret it? I pushed her hands away. I need time. Her eyes darkened slightly. You don't have much. That sentence didn't make sense. What does that mean? She stood up smoothly. It means changes become permanent faster than you think.
Permanent.
My stomach dropped. How long have you been dosing me? I demanded. She walked toward the window, watching the city lights. Long enough. The calm in her voice made it worse. You manipulated me. She turned slowly. I revealed you. Those words hit harder than any accusation. Because somewhere inside, I feared she might be right. That night, I locked myself in the bathroom. I stared at my reflection for nearly an hour. My lips looked fuller, my shoulders slightly narrower, my eyes softer. If you walked past me on the street in dim light, you might hesitate for a second before labeling me. And that hesitation excited me. I hated that it did. I pressed my forehead against the mirror. Who am I? I whispered. The reflection didn't answer. But it didn't look like Ethan anymore. Not fully. And the terrifying part? I wasn't sure I wanted him back completely. But this wasn't just about identity anymore. It was about control. And Mia wasn't finished. The next morning, I woke up to an empty bed. And on the nightstand, another bottle. This one labeled differently. Progesterone. My hands started shaking. Because this wasn't accidental experimentation. This was a plan. And whatever she was building, I was already becoming it. If you were in my position right now, would you run? Would you confront her? Or would you secretly want to see how far it goes? Because I'm about to tell you something I haven't admitted out loud. When I picked up that second bottle, I didn't throw it away. I held it. And I imagined what I would look like in 3 months. And that thought, that curiosity, is what truly trapped me. This is only the beginning. Because Mia didn't just want me softer. She wanted me transformed. And soon, she was going to test just how committed I was to becoming her perfect creation. I didn't take the progesterone. At least, that's what I told myself. The bottle sat in my drawer for 3 days. I'd open it, stare at the capsules, then close it again. Like it was radioactive. Like touching it meant admitting something permanent. But the truth? The truth is I didn't throw it away either. And that says everything. By the end of that week, the changes were undeniable. My chest wasn't just tender anymore, it had shape. Subtle, but visible. When I leaned forward in the bathroom mirror, there was a curve. A softness that hadn't been there a month ago. I traced it with shaking fingers. It felt real.
Warm. Alive.
My body didn't feel like it was betraying me. It felt like it was unfolding. That terrified me more than anything. Because if it felt wrong, I could fight it. But it didn't feel wrong. It felt intimate. Mia watched me differently now. Not suspicious. Not worried. Evaluating. Like an artist stepping back from a canvas. You've been quieter, she said one evening while cooking. I'm thinking. About. I hesitated. About what you did. She didn't even flinch. I helped you. You drugged me. She set the knife down calmly. I removed the fear barrier. My heart pounded. That wasn't your choice to make. She walked closer.
No.
It was yours. You just never had the courage. Those words hit a nerve she knew existed. And she pressed harder. You stared at my dresses for months before I started anything, she continued. You'd watch makeup tutorials when you thought I was asleep. I froze. You were curious long before I intervened. Intervened. Like this was a medical treatment. Not a betrayal. That night, she brought out the black box again. But this time it wasn't just a blouse. It was a full outfit. Soft pleated skirt. Cream-colored sweater. Sheer tights. And heels. My throat went dry. Mia? Just try it, she said gently. I don't know if I. You already know. That sentence felt like gravity. She stepped closer and brushed her thumb over my chest again. The sensitivity shot straight to my spine. You're responding beautifully, she whispered. I should have walked away. Instead, I asked the question that doomed me. What happens if I don't? Her eyes hardened slightly. The changes will stall. Your hormones will destabilize. Mood swings. Acne. Emotional crashes. Fear twisted in my stomach. Are you threatening me? I'm informing you. The clinical calm in her voice made it worse. You've already started the process, she continued. Stopping abruptly could be unpleasant. I didn't know if that was true. But I also didn't know if it wasn't. And that uncertainty trapped me. The first time she dressed me fully, my hands were shaking. She didn't rush. She never rushed. She helped me step into the tights first. The nylon hugged my legs in a way that made my breath hitch. Every nerve felt amplified. Then the skirt. It slid over my hips too easily. That's when I realized my hips weren't the same what they used to be. They curved slightly outward.
Subtly.
But enough. When she pulled the sweater down over my torso, the fabric settled against my chest in a way that made everything real. There was no pretending anymore. No, maybe it's just lighting. I looked feminine. Not fully, but enough to blur lines. And when she placed the heels in front of me, I hesitated. "You don't have to," she said softly. But the tone said the opposite. I slid my feet in. The world tilted. My balance shifted. My posture adjusted automatically. And something inside me clicked. The mirror was 5 feet away. It felt like 5 miles. When I finally looked, I stopped breathing. I wasn't Ethan in women's clothes. I was her. A version of me that had been hiding behind fear for years. My waist looked narrow. My legs longer. My chest shaped gently beneath the sweater. My face, already softened by hormones, looked almost androgynous. With light makeup, it would tip completely. My eyes started watering. Not from shame. From recognition. Mia stepped behind me and wrapped her arms around my waist. "Beautiful," she whispered again. This time, I didn't argue. But beauty didn't erase the violation. That conflict tore at me constantly. In the mirror, I felt aligned. Outside the mirror, I felt trapped. The next escalation came unexpectedly. 2 days later, Mia texted me while I was at work. "Be home by 7. We have plans." Plans? My stomach tightened. When I walked into the apartment that evening, the lights were dimmed. Soft music played again. On the couch, a wig. Long dark. Styled perfectly. My pulse spiked. "Mia, come here," she said calmly. "I'm not going out like that." She smiled slowly. Who said anything about going out? But her eyes said otherwise. She applied the wig carefully. Adjusted it. Brushed it. Then came the makeup. Foundation first. Then contour.
Blush.
Mascara. Every brushstroke erased Ethan a little more. When she finished, she turned me toward the mirror. And I didn't see a man pretending. I saw a woman emerging. Not exaggerated. Not cartoonish. Convincing. Scarily convincing. "You pass," she said quietly.
Pass.
The word sent electricity through me. Pass as what? Pass as who? My breathing became shallow. "What do you want from me?" I whispered. She stepped back, admiring her work. "I want you to stop fighting what you are." "And what am I?" She walked closer again. Tilted my chin up. "My girl." The possessiveness in her tone both thrilled and frightened me. Because part of me wanted to belong like that. And part of me screamed that I was losing control. Then came the knock. 3 sharp raps on the door. My heart stopped. "Mia," I hissed. "Someone's here." She didn't look surprised. "That's okay." "Okay. I look like this." She walked calmly to the door. I grabbed her wrist. "I can't." She leaned close to my ear. "Relax. Let's see how confident you really are." The knock came again. Louder. My entire body felt like it was vibrating. I looked down at myself, skirt, tights, heels, wig, full makeup. There was no time to change. No time to hide. Mia opened the door. And standing there was my neighbor, a middle-aged woman from across the hall. Her eyes moved from Mia
To me.
and they lingered for 3 long seconds. Not confused. Not shocked. Just assessing. "Oh," she said finally. "I didn't know you had company." Mia smiled smoothly. "This is
Emma. Emma.
The name hit like a lightning strike. My mouth went dry. The neighbor nodded politely. "Nice to meet you." She looked directly at me. Not through me.
At me.
And in that moment, I realized something that changed everything. She didn't see a man in disguise. She saw a woman. And that realization, that terrifying, intoxicating validation, made my knees weak. I had just crossed a line. A public one. There was no going back to complete anonymity after this, because now someone else had seen her.
Seen me.
And believed it. When the door closed, I spun toward Mia. You planned that. She didn't deny it. I wanted you to feel it. Feel what? She stepped closer. The world responding to you correctly. Correctly. My heart pounded violently. You're playing with my life, I whispered. She cupped my face gently. No, Ethan. She leaned closer. I'm shaping it. And that's when the real fear set in. Because this wasn't about secret dressing at home anymore. This wasn't private experimentation. This was exposure, testing, escalation. And the next step was going to be bigger, much bigger. Because the following morning, Mia left a note on the kitchen counter. 3 words.
Dinner.
Friday, 8 p.m. And underneath, a reservation confirmation. Under the name, Emma Carter.
Tell me something. If you were me right now,
would you cancel? Would you run? Or would you show up and let the world decide who you really are? Because Friday is coming, and Mia isn't bluffing. Friday arrived too fast. I spent the entire day at work barely functioning. Every notification on my phone made my heart jump. Every reflection in the office window felt like a reminder that my body wasn't the same anymore. By 6 p.m., I was home. Mia had already laid everything out on the bed. A deep navy dress, fitted at the waist, slightly flared at the hips. Elegant, not flashy. Next to it, nude heels, a delicate necklace, small stud earrings, and the wig. My stomach twisted. You don't have to look so terrified, Mia said from the doorway. I'm not terrified. She raised an eyebrow. I exhaled slowly. Okay, I'm terrified. She walked toward me calmly. This is just dinner. It's not just dinner. It's public. That's the point. Her words were steady, measured, like she'd rehearsed this moment for months. Getting dressed felt different this time. The first time she put me in a skirt, it felt experimental. Tonight felt ceremonial. When I stepped into the dress, it hugged my waist perfectly. My hips filled it naturally now. My chest curved gently against the fabric, no padding needed anymore. That realization hit hard. This wasn't costume. This was biology catching up. Mia applied my makeup slowly, carefully. Contour soft. Lips glossy but not bold. Mascara light enough to look effortless. She stepped back. You're stunning. I looked in the mirror, and my breath caught. If someone showed me that reflection a year ago and told me it was me, I wouldn't have believed them. My face was undeniably feminine now. Softer cheeks, fuller lips, eyes that looked wider, almost vulnerable. Even my posture had changed, shoulders relaxed, hips angled naturally. I didn't see Ethan dressed as a woman. I saw Emma. And that scared me, because Emma didn't look temporary. The restaurant was upscale but intimate. Warm lighting, low chatter, clinking glasses. Every step in heels felt louder than it actually was. My heartbeat was so intense I thought people could hear it. Mia held my hand, not to guide, to display. The hostess smiled politely. Reservation? Mia didn't answer. She looked at me. My throat dried instantly. Emma Carter, I said. My voice was softer now. Higher than before. Not exaggerated, just naturally shifted. The hostess nodded without hesitation. Right this way, Miss Carter. Miss Carter. No double take. No confusion. Just acceptance. I almost stumbled. The world didn't question me. The world agreed with what Mia had done. We sat at a corner table. I could feel eyes occasionally glancing over, assessing. But nothing lingered too long. I wasn't spectacle. I was normal. That realization hit harder than rejection ever could. You're shaking, Mia whispered. I feel exposed. You look confident. That was the terrifying part. On the outside, I did. My body language had shifted instinctively. Legs crossed at the knee. Hands resting lightly on the table. Chin angled just enough. I wasn't faking it. It felt natural. Too natural. Halfway through dinner, I excused myself to the restroom. The women's restroom. My heart nearly stopped at the door. This was the line. Entering meant choosing. Staying outside meant retreating. I pushed the door open. Inside, two women stood at the mirror fixing their makeup.
They glanced at me,
Smiled politely, and went back to their conversation. No one stared. No one questioned. I walked to the sink slowly, looked up, and there she was again.
Emma.
Under fluorescent lighting, with no flattering shadows. And she still looked real. My hands gripped the edge of the sink.
What have you done to me?
Or maybe, what have I allowed?
The door opened again.
A woman entered and stood next to me. Your dress is beautiful, she said casually. My breath hitched. Thank you. She smiled warmly. And left.
Complimented.
Accepted. Validated. I felt something crack inside me. Not fear.
Not shame.
But resistance. The wall I'd been holding up for years started collapsing. Because this wasn't humiliation. This wasn't exposure. This was alignment. And that realization was more dangerous than Mia's manipulation. When I returned to the table, something had shifted in me. Mia noticed immediately. Her eyes darkened slightly. You liked it. It wasn't a question. I didn't answer. Because she was right. And that truth terrified me. But the real climax wasn't dinner. It was what happened after. When we returned home, Mia didn't turn on the lights. She locked the door quietly and walked toward me slowly. You crossed the threshold tonight, she said softly. You forced me to. She tilted her head. Did I? Silence. Because if I was honest, she hadn't dragged me inside. I'd walked. My hands trembled. You drugged me. You altered my body without consent. Yes, she said calmly. No denial. No guilt. Just fact. And yet, she stepped closer. You didn't stop. My chest tightened. You could have thrown the pills away. You could have left. She brushed her fingers across my waist. But you didn't. Her touch sent electricity through me. You wanted to see who you'd become. Her voice dropped lower. And now you know. My breathing became uneven. Knowing doesn't justify what you did. No, she agreed. But it explains why you stayed. That sentence hit like a punch. Because I had stayed. Even after finding the estradiol. Even after discovering the progesterone. Even after realizing the plan. I stayed. She led me to the bedroom. Sat me down on the edge of the bed. Then she opened a drawer. And pulled out a folder. Inside were printed documents. Medical charts. Hormone schedules. Projected timelines. Before and after simulation images. My stomach dropped. You planned this, I whispered.
For months, she said.
You turned me into an experiment. Her gaze softened slightly.
No.
She knelt in front of me again. Intentional, powerful. I turned you into who you were too afraid to become. My heart pounded violently. This isn't love. Her fingers rested lightly on my knee. It is. Twisted. Controlling. Obsessive. But in her mind, it was love. Then she said the sentence that shattered everything. You're legally scheduled for consultation next week. My vision blurred. What? I transferred some of your records. Booked an endocrinology appointment. You had no right. I have power of medical proxy. My blood ran cold. What? She held up another paper. A signed authorization form. My signature. I remembered signing something months ago, during a tax filing she helped me with. It wasn't taxes. You forged consent, I whispered. You gave it, she corrected. The room felt like it was spinning. This wasn't just hormones anymore. This was entrapment. Legal. Medical.
Permanent.
I stood up suddenly. I'm leaving. But even as I said it, I hesitated. Because leaving meant stopping. Stopping meant reversing. And reversing meant losing Emma. That conflict paralyzed me. Mia stood slowly. You can walk out, she said calmly. No one's chaining you. Her eyes locked onto mine. But you won't. The confidence in her voice shook me. Because she believed it. And part of me feared she was right. She stepped closer. Removed the necklace gently. Unzipped the back of my dress slowly. The fabric slid down my shoulders. My body responded instinctively, not with shame. With heat. You feel it, she whispered. Yes, I admitted. The word escaped before I could stop it. That was the breaking point. Because admitting that meant accepting part of this wasn't coercion.
Part of it was desire.
And desire complicates victimhood. I pushed her away suddenly. I need air. I grabbed my coat and rushed out the door. Still in heels. Still in makeup. Still Emma. The cold night air hit my skin sharply. I walked down the sidewalk, heart racing. Cars passed.
People glanced.
No one screamed. No one pointed. I wasn't being chased. I wasn't being mocked. I was just a woman walking alone at night. And the realization hit me like a tidal wave. The world had already accepted me. The only person still fighting was me. But here's where everything twists. As I stood under a streetlight trying to breathe, my phone buzzed. A message from Mia. Just 3 words. Check your email. My hands shook as I opened it. There it was. Official documentation. Name change draft. Emma Carter.
Filed.
Processing. My knees nearly gave out. She hadn't just transformed my body. She was rewriting my identity. Legally.
Publicly.
Permanently. And suddenly I realized something horrifying. If I fought this, I would have to prove she drugged me. Expose myself. Expose Emma. Destroy the very identity I'd just felt validated in. To undo her manipulation, I'd have to reject the version of me the world had just embraced. And I didn't know if I could. So tell me, if becoming her was both betrayal and fulfillment, is it still wrong? Or is it destiny forced too aggressively? Because I'm standing under a streetlight right now, in heels, with a legal document in my inbox. And I have one choice left. Go back upstairs, or disappear forever. And whatever I choose next will decide who I am for the rest of my life. The streetlight above me flickered. Not dramatically, just enough to feel symbolic. Cold air brushed against my bare legs, slipping under the hem of my dress. My heels were starting to hurt. My mascara felt heavy on my lashes, and my phone screen still glowed in my trembling hand. Emma Carter, name change request drafted. It didn't look fake. It didn't look like a prank. It looked official.
Real. Permanent.
My reflection in the black phone screen stared back at me. Long hair. Glossed lips. Soft eyes. Not Ethan. Not fully. But not completely Emma either. Somewhere in between. Somewhere fragile. If I went to the police, what would I say? My girlfriend secretly put me on hormones. They would ask for proof. They would ask why I stayed. Why I kept taking the pills. Why I showed up to dinner. Why I entered the women's restroom. Why I didn't leave earlier. And the worst question of all, if you hated it so much, why do you look so comfortable? That question would destroy me. Because comfort doesn't erase manipulation.
But it complicates it.
And complications are messy in the real world. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Mia. You're not trapped. You're chosen. I almost threw the phone across the sidewalk. Chosen? Like I was some character in her fantasy? Like my identity was a project she curated? Anger surged through me. For the first time all night it felt clear. This wasn't love. This was control. This was obsession disguised as destiny. I turned toward the apartment building. My hands clenched. I wasn't going back upstairs to surrender. I was going back upstairs to end this. When I opened the door, Mia was sitting on the couch.
Come,